Have you ever looked at two people who started from the exact same place and ended up somewhere completely different? Maybe they grew up in the same house, went to the same school, had the same parents, the same opportunities, the same early struggles. And then somewhere along the way, without any single dramatic moment you could point to, their lives began to move in different directions. One slowly forward, one slowly sideways. And the question that never quite leaves you is this: when did it actually split? What was the moment? Was there even a moment? Or was it something smaller than that? Something that happened every morning in the ordinary private minutes before the day began, so quietly that nobody noticed it happening until 20 years had passed and the distance between them was impossible to ignore. If you have ever watched that happen, to two people you know, or to yourself and someone you started alongside, then this story is for you. Because this is the story of two brothers in Tampere, Finland. Same house, same father. Same grey winter sky outside the same bedroom window. One small difference, repeated every morning for 20 years. Stay with me until the end. Because what their father showed them on a frozen lake will change the way you see every ordinary day you have been underestimating. Tampere sits between two lakes in the heart of Finland, Näsijärvi to the north, Pyhäjärvi to the south, a city that was built on cold and industry and the particular Finnish understanding that the things worth having require a patience that the rest of the world finds difficult to explain. In November, the days in Tampere last about 8 hours. In December, less. The darkness is not dramatic, it is simply present, the way cold is present, the way the lakes are present. The people who grow up there learn, without being taught it directly, that endurance is not a virtue so much as a climate. Aleksi was 36. Eero was 34. They had grown up in a terrace house in the Kaleva district, 2 streets from the old textile factory their father Paavo had worked in before it became a museum. Same rooms, same kitchen table, same view of the Tamakoski Rapids from the upstairs window. Their mother had died when Eero was 11 and Aleksi 13, a loss that had shaped both of them in ways neither could fully articulate even now. Paavo had raised them alone, quietly, without complaint, the way Finnish fathers of his generation raised children, not with speeches, but with example, not with warmth that announced itself, but with a steadiness that was simply always there. Aleksi was the louder of the two, charming in the way that made rooms feel easier when he entered them. He worked as a sales coordinator for a logistics company in the city centre, good at the role, genuinely good, the kind of person whose clients liked him personally before they trusted him professionally. He drove a car that was slightly too expensive for his salary, lived in an apartment with a balcony he had chosen for the view, and had a talent for making the present moment feel like enough. He spent freely, not recklessly. There was always a reason. A trip he had been promising himself. A piece of furniture that was an investment, really. A phone that was 3 years old and genuinely needed replacing. The reasons were always real. The pattern was what nobody examined. Eero was the quieter one. An electrician, 4 years into running his own small operation, residential and light commercial work across the Tampere suburbs. He woke at 5:15 every morning, not because the work required it, but because the hour before the city woke up was his. He kept a notebook. He saved a fixed percentage of every invoice before he spent anything else. He said no to things frequently and without lengthy explanation. He was not joyless. That was the misunderstanding Aleksi had carried for years, that his brother's discipline was a kind of greyness, a life lived at low temperature. Eero laughed. He had friends. He cooked well and ate slowly and took one good trip a year, planned 8 months in advance and fully paid for before he went. He simply did not confuse the present moment with the whole of his life. The two brothers spoke every week. They liked each other genuinely. This is important to understand. The story is not about rivalry or resentment. It is about two people who loved each other and could not quite see for a long time what was actually different between them. The divergence had not happened in a single moment. It had happened the way ice forms on a Finnish lake, one cold night at a time, invisible until suddenly it was undeniable. At 22, both brothers had started with the same amount. Their father had given each of them 4,000 euros when they finished their training, everything he had saved from 3 years of overtime at the textile factory. A beginning, he said. Not a cushion, a beginning. Aleksi had used his to travel for 4 months. Spain, Portugal, a week in Morocco. The photographs were extraordinary. The memories were real. He came back with 180 euros and a certainty that life was for living, and he had never quite revised that certainty since. Eero had used 1,200 euros of his to buy a second-hand van for the electrical work he was already planning. The remaining 2,800 euros went into an account he did not touch. Neither decision was wrong exactly. That is what made it complicated. By 25, the difference was small enough to dismiss. Aleksi was earning well and spending most of it. Eero was earning less. The early years of self-employment are lean in ways that employment isn't, but saving steadily. If you had looked at both men's lives from the outside that year, you would have seen Aleksi living better. The apartment, the car, the weekends away. Eero in a smaller flat, driving the aging van, saying no to things. By 30, the gap had widened in ways that were harder to dismiss but still easy to explain away. Aleksi had credit card debt from a period when the work had been slow and the spending hadn't adjusted. He had paid most of it down. He was fine. He was always fine. By 35, something shifted. The sales role had changed structure. Commission-based now, where it had been partly salaried before. 2 slow quarters hit Aleksi in the same year his car needed a repair that cost 1,800 euros and his landlord raised the rent by 220 euros a month. He covered it. Just. But the margin between his income and his obligations had become so thin that one more variable, one more slow month, one more unexpected cost would push him into a place he couldn't quietly recover from alone. The phone call came on a Tuesday night in November. Eero was in his kitchen eating dinner when Aleksi's name appeared on the screen. He knew from the first second of his brother's voice that something was wrong. "I need to ask you something," Aleksi said, And I need you not to make it a bigger thing than it is. He needed 3,000 euros, 30 days, he said, maybe less. He had a commission payment coming. He just needed the bridge. Eero was quiet for a moment. Okay, he said. Just like that? You're my brother. Aleksi was quiet. Then, how do you just have it? How are you always just fine? Eero didn't answer immediately. Not because he didn't know, but because the answer was long and he wasn't sure a phone call at 11 o'clock on a Tuesday night was where it belonged. Come for the weekend, he said instead. Bring nothing. We'll go to Dad's. Paavo was 67. He still lived in the Kaleva house, the same one, smaller now with just him in it, though he never said so. He made coffee the moment they arrived on Saturday morning, before either of them had their coats off, and put a plate of bread on the table and said very little while they ate. He looked at both his sons carefully, the way he had always looked at things, without rushing, taking in what was actually there rather than what he expected to find. After breakfast, he stood up and said, "Get your coats. We're going to the lake." Lake Nasijavi in November is a particular thing. The surface was not yet fully frozen, too early in the season for that. But along the shallower edges near the old fishing spots Paavo had used for 30 years, the ice had begun to form, thin still. 2, maybe 3 centimeters in places. They stood at the edge, and Paavo looked at it for a while. "You remember when you were boys," he said. "What I always told you about the ice," Aleksi remembered. "Don't walk on it until it's ready." "Why?" "Because if you go too early, it breaks, and you fall through." He crouched and pressed one hand flat against the surface near the bank. "This ice," he said, "has been building since the first cold night 3 weeks ago. Every night, it thickened a little. You couldn't see it happening. On any single night, it looked the same as the night before." He stood up, slowly, but it was never the same. It was always either thickening or not thickening. There was no standing still. He looked at both of them. "The fish are there in January," he said. "Same fish, same lake, but only the man who waited for the ice to thicken can reach them. The man who went out too early, he didn't get more fish, he just got wet and cold and further behind than if he'd waited." He looked at Aleksi, not unkindly. "The money I gave you both." That was the first cold night. The ice either started building from that night, or it didn't. He paused. It was never about the 4,000 euros. He began walking back toward the house and left them standing at the edge of the lake in the thin November light, looking at ice that had been building invisibly for 3 weeks and would keep building, one cold night at a time, until it could hold the weight of a man. They walked back to the house without speaking, not the silence of 2 people who have nothing to say, the silence of 2 people sitting with something that has just named itself, something that was always there, shapeless, and has now been given a form they can actually look at. Paavo made more coffee. He put another log in the stove and sat in his chair by the window and opened the newspaper the way he did every Saturday, and left his sons to the kitchen table and whatever they needed to do with what he had shown them. Aleksi sat with his hands around his mug for a long time. "I always thought you were just wired differently," he said finally, "like it came naturally to you, the discipline. the saying no. Eero shook his head. The first year I had the business I wanted to quit every month. The van broke down twice. I had one client for 6 weeks. He looked at the table. It didn't come naturally. I just kept getting up at 5:15. Why 5:15? No decisions someone else made that I have to respond to. Eero turned his mug slowly. I use it to think about where I'm going, not where I am. Where I'm going. Aleksi was quiet. I've never done that. I know. I've always just dealt with where I am. I know that too. It wasn't said as a judgment. Eero's voice was the same temperature it always was. Level, unhurried, the voice of a man who had learned that most important things didn't need to be said loudly to be heard. Aleksi looked out the window at the back garden, frost on the grass. The sky, the specific shade of white that Tampere wore for 5 months of the year. So what do I do? Not 10, 1. Which thing? The one you've been avoiding longest. Aleksi drove back to his apartment on Sunday evening and sat at his kitchen table with a notebook. The first notebook he had bought for personal use in 11 years, which itself told him something. He did not make a sweeping plan. He had made sweeping plans before, and they had lasted between 4 days and 3 weeks, depending on how much initial enthusiasm he'd had. He understood now. Sitting at the table in the Tampere dark, with the lake somewhere out beyond the city lights, that enthusiasm was not ice. Enthusiasm was the air temperature the night before the first freeze. Necessary, maybe, but not the thing itself. The thing itself was colder and slower and less exciting than enthusiasm. He wrote one line at the top of the page, one cold night at a time. Then beneath it, 200 euros, untouchable, first of every month, before anything else. Not 2,000 euros, not a dramatic restructuring of his entire financial life. 200 euros moved to a separate account on the first of the month before he paid anything else or bought anything else or decided anything else. Small enough that it wouldn't break him in a slow month. Consistent enough that in 12 months it would be 2,400 euros, more than he had ever had sitting still and unspent in his life. He set a phone reminder for the 1st of December. He labelled it Ice. Then he closed the notebook and went to bed at 10 o'clock, which was 45 minutes earlier than usual, which was its own kind of beginning. The 1st of December. He moved the 200 euros. It felt like almost nothing. That was the point, and also the difficulty, the discipline of doing something that felt like almost nothing, and trusting that almost nothing repeated was exactly enough. January, another 200 euros. His commission payment had come through in mid-December, enough to pay Eero back in full, which he did the morning it cleared, before he spent a single euro of it on anything else. That was new. The old Aleksi would have paid Eero back eventually, in the comfortable future, after a few other things. February was hard. A slow month, a larger than expected heating bill, the familiar pull toward the 400 euros now sitting in the untouchable account. He looked at it twice. He did not touch it. He called Eero on a Wednesday evening, not about money, just to talk. They spoke for 40 minutes about their father, about the lake, about a memory from childhood neither of them had mentioned in years. A winter when the ice had come late, and Paavo had made them wait an extra 2 weeks before he'd take them out. And Aleksi had complained every single day, and Eero had said almost nothing. And when they finally went, the ice had been the thickest it had been in years, and they had stayed out until the light was gone. I remember being so angry at Dad for making us wait, Aleksi said. I remember, Eero said. And then I remember it being the best day. Yes. A pause. The fish were there the whole time. They always are, Eero said. Eero, for his part, was learning something too. This is the part of the story that is easy to miss, the part where the disciplined brother discovers what his discipline had cost him without his knowing it. Paavo had said something to Eero alone before they left on Sunday, a quiet moment in the hallway while Aleksi was in the bathroom. You've built good ice, his father said. Strong. I'm proud of it. Eero had started to thank him. Paavo held up one hand, the small, economical gesture he used when he wasn't finished. But ice that nobody ever walks on, he said, is just a cold surface. He looked at his son steadily. Let people in, Eero. The ice will hold them. That's what it was built for. Eero had driven home thinking about that. About the trips he had declined because they weren't in the plan. The evenings he had left early because the morning alarm was real. The friendships he had maintained at a careful distance because closeness felt like a variable he couldn't budget for. The ice was real. It was strong, and he had been standing on it, alone. The following month, he called a friend he hadn't spoken to properly in 2 years. He went to his friend's birthday in March and stayed until midnight. No alarm calculation, no exit strategy. He booked a trip to Lapland for February, 5 days, 2 friends, something he had thought about for 4 years and rescheduled 3 times for reasons that looked like responsibility and felt, honestly, like fear. He was not becoming Aleksi. He was becoming a fuller version of himself. The ice didn't melt because he walked on it. That was the point his father had always been making. He understood now. The ice wasn't built to be preserved. It was built to be used. 20 years after Paavo handed each of them 4,000 euros and called it a beginning, not a cushion, a beginning, both brothers were in their 40s. Aleksi had not become a different person. That was not how it worked, and he had stopped expecting it to. He was still louder than Eero, still moved faster, still found the present moment easier to inhabit than most people did. But the 200 euros had become 400 euros. The 400 euros had become a discipline. The discipline had become an identity. Slow, imperfect, interrupted twice, and restarted twice, but unbroken in the way that actually mattered. His credit cards were cleared. His emergency fund was real. 7,200 euros sitting in an account he had named, without quite meaning to. The same thing his father had taught him at the lake's edge. The ice. Eero had taken the Lapland trip, and the one after it. He had been the best man at his friend's wedding the following autumn, and given a speech that made the room laugh and then go quiet in the way that good speeches do. He still woke at 5:15. He still kept the notebook. But the hour before the city woke up was less about the business now and more about the life he was building around it. Both brothers went ice fishing with Paavo every January. The old man was slower now, more careful on the frozen surface of Näsijärvi, but he still knew every fishing spot by feel, and he still said almost nothing and let the lake do the talking. One January morning, the three of them sitting in the early Finnish light with their lines through the ice, Aleksi said, "Dad, why did you wait so long to show us?" Paavo looked at the hole in the ice for a moment. "I showed you every winter since you were 6 years old," he said. "You just weren't ready to see it until you needed to." The lake was quiet. The light was thin and clear, and the kind of cold that sharpens everything. Aleksi looked at the ice beneath him, thick, solid, built one cold night at a time, across weeks he hadn't witnessed, and felt, underneath the weight of everything it had taken to get here, something close to gratitude. My friend, this story is not about Eero being right and Aleksi being wrong. It is about every one of us who has looked at the distance between where we are and where we meant to be and wondered when exactly the split happened. Here is what the ice on Lake Näsijärvi teaches us, and what I want to leave with you today. First, the split is never one moment. It is one small choice made daily that most people never examine because it doesn't feel significant in the moment it is made. Staying up an extra hour, spending before saving, choosing the present at the cost of the future. No single instance destroys anything, but repeated without awareness, across years, it becomes the life you didn't mean to build. Second, discipline without joy is just a cold surface. Eero's ice was real, but ice nobody walks on serves no one. Whatever you are building patiently, build it for a life you can actually inhabit. Let people onto it. Take the trip. Stay until midnight sometimes. The ice was made to be walked on. That is its whole purpose. Third, it is never too late to have the first cold night. Aleksi started at 36. 200 euros a month. One line in a notebook. The smallest possible version of the right thing. The ice doesn't care when you started. It only responds to what you do tonight, and tomorrow night, and the night after that. Here is your challenge. Tonight, before anything else, write down one small thing you have been putting off starting because it feels too small to matter. Then do it. Not the whole thing. Just the first cold night. Set the alarm. Move the 200 euros. Close the laptop at 10. Whatever your version is. Do it tonight, before the temperature rises and the moment passes. Before you scroll on, ask yourself honestly, is there a choice you make every day, so quietly that you have stopped noticing it? That is either thickening your ice or keeping it thin. You don't have to change everything tonight. You just have to be honest about the answer. Drop one word in the comments that describes the ice you are building right now. One word. Read what others write. You will find people on their first cold night and people 20 years in, and both will remind you that the lake is the same for everyone. Only the ice is different. If someone came to mind while you watched this, someone who started where you started and is now somewhere you don't fully understand, send this to them, not as a message, just as a story. Let them find what they need in it. There is a new story here every week for anyone still figuring out what they are building in the quiet.